This season is brought to you by the Working Garden Project. Did you know that 74% of employees struggle to disconnect from work? The significant percentage say that their job negatively impacts their mental and social well-being. And many employees are considering leaving jobs that don't support their overall health. They need solutions. And based on all the positive benefits that we know that can come from nature, nature can be one of them. The Working Garden Project is a nationwide effort to bring the benefits of nature and communal gardening to workplaces across the country. To learn more about how to bring the Working Garden Project to your company, head to workinggardenproject.com. Whether your company is big or small, the Working Garden Project has solutions to create more happiness, engagement, and productivity in the workplace. Again, that's workinggardenproject.com. Hello, I'm your host, Jessica Manan, and this is Inside and Outside. If this is your first time here, I'm a horticultural therapy practitioner who is equally obsessed with growing cut and come again flowers and staying up to date with the summer house scandal, Dame Sierra. So on this podcast, we talk about outside things like how gardens can help us, how nature can heal us, and the power of flowers. And then we go inside and talk about things like pop culture, food trends, and our weird obsessions. Real quick, before we start, I'm hosting a flower pressing workshop at Paper Canopy in Charleston, South Carolina on April 19th. I will put a link to it in the show notes. I know there's a couple more spots left. And coming up at the end of April, I'm launching a new virtual meetup for any person who's ever done a gardening session with me or learning to grow workshop. It's going to be a garden club of sorts. I kind of want to call it I sort of know how to garden club, or I am curious about gardening club. You do not have to be a master gardener to join this. This is going to be all about what we're growing, learning from each other, and maybe it's the inspiration you need to get started. So look out for that. If you're not signed up for the Basker newsletter, you can do that at baskergardens.com. Okay, my guest today. She's the coolest. It's Lottie Delamain. She's an RHS Chelsea award-winning garden designer. She has worked on gardens around the UK, from small urban spaces to historic estates. She's a regular contributor to House and Garden magazine, and she's a trustee of We Are Grow, which is a charity working with schools and communities, helping them with sustainable food growing and outdoor learning. And she just wrote a new book called Gardens That Can Save the World. As you heard last week on the podcast, I give everyone a copy of Mason Curry's Daily Rituals, and now I'll be giving this book to everyone I know too. In this episode, we talk about how gardens can truly help us on so many levels, and how just your small patch or pots that you grow on a balcony can be a part of a bigger collective to help our world. And then we move inside to talk about her inside pick, which was a lot of fun. And if it's not obvious already, all I want to do is to teach people how to grow and to have gardens, even if it's just a couple pots in your yard or on your stoop if you live in a small space. So if this episode is the one that has inspired you to want to learn to grow or to have a garden or to connect more with nature, I'd really love to help you. Head to baskergardens.com or the Working Garden Project to learn how we can work together, or just shoot me an email at hello@baskergardens.com. If you don't think you can do it, I bet we can figure out how you can. All right, here's my conversation with Lottie. Lottie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you on so many levels. Your inside thing, I can't wait to discuss that with you. But first, we start outside, and every episode I bring some nature news. But today you're the nature news because your new book, Gardens That Can Save the World, I mean, I cried when I saw it. It is just so beautiful, so wonderful. And I just want to kick it off with, I mean, obviously you know that gardens can save the world. But to pitch this book to a publisher, was it a hard sell?
Good question. You're right. I know it. And I think anyone who's got a garden understands how potent and powerful gardens are. And I think it kind of operates on two levels. Like, gardens work very hard for us on an individual level. We all, anyone who has a garden or has even just experienced kind of walking through nature or enjoying a park on a hot sunny day, we all know that being outside and being in nature is extremely powerful. But I think where it really becomes supercharged and where it really can have the potential to change the world is when you look at it in aggregate and you look at gardens and how they are all connected all around the world. And this is the bit that got me really excited when I was writing the book, like not just the individual stories, but then kind of zooming out and thinking of this massive global tapestry of gardens that are not necessarily working in concert consciously, but are all together contributing to a massive global pattern of change. So this is what I was trying to convey with the book and pitch to the publishers, was that it was happening all over the world, and whether people had kind of been asked to or not, mostly not, but simultaneously all around the world, people are turning to gardens to affect positive change. And I love that idea that it's a sort of revolution that's underway and we've just got to tap into it.
Yes. And I think when you say the word garden, I think people might think of a cute patch of tomatoes in someone's backyard or a beautiful cut flower garden on their side yard. But these gardens that you're featuring some of them are so massive. I mean, it's huge apartments that have trees actually growing on each individual unit, or there's people figuring out how to garden in vast water on little barges. So I just wanted to put into context when you say garden, like there are some really massive things happening in terms of how cities are using them and how people are getting really, really creative with it. Because I think oftentimes, especially I think in the US, where gardening is definitely part of our culture, but not as big as some other countries. When people hear the word garden, they think of it as something in your backyard.
Yes, this is true. There's definitely some bigger projects in the book, but actually a key priority for me was putting lots of small projects in there too, so that people felt that they had agency and that all of the small ones together make up a bigger whole.
Yes.
And actually in the book, in the foreword, is Bella Tree, who I'm sure you and your listeners are very familiar with, but she very kindly did the foreword for my book. And in it, she writes about how in the US, you've got 2.3 million square kilometers of residential yards, which is 3 times the area of Texas. So if all of those were being gardened in a way that benefited people or planet, that's a huge amount of land being leveraged for a common good. So I think, yes, the big projects are important, and they're also important because they're really visible, and people who may not have access to green spaces privately in their homes will obviously hopefully have access to public spaces. But I think it's important that people realize that just their little patch has power and potential, because I think the other big thing about it is this idea of agency, and especially with climate change, but there's no shortage of terrible news in the world, and it's so easy to feel completely powerless and overwhelmed by it all. And I think what gardens do that is very powerful is they give us something to do. They give us something active that we can participate in, that makes us feel like we are part of this change. It's not just we're designing a future we want to be in when we garden, and we're not just kind of letting this future come at us, this doom-laden apocalypse that the media will have us believe. It's actually something that we are co-creating with what we're doing, with our gardens, with our time, with our lives now. And I think that's a very hopeful message in these very crazy times.
Yes. There was a quote by Sue Stewart-Smith, who her book is maybe like my Bible when I'm talking to people sometimes. She wrote the book, The Walled Garden Mind, and she says, we don't need more evidence. It's all there, so we're just getting on with it. And I just love that so much because I find myself, and on this podcast, that I'm always trying to bring studies and research to make a point and prove like this can help change our brains. This can help change our bodies. But what I love so much about your book is like, just look at the photos, read the stories, like all the evidence is there. So I guess my question for you is I sometimes struggle myself with trying to, it's almost like wanting to shake someone and be like, no, really, this works. And I think when we're talking about gardening, sometimes it feels kind of grandiose and privileged to be able to do it. So to make this bold of a claim for your title, like, is this how you've always felt about them? How did you get to this point?
It's a bit like when you learn to cook. You can't really learn to cook just from reading the books. You have to garden, you have to do it, you have to cook the meal to know exactly what emulsify means, or exactly how perfectly you want your crispy bottomed egg to be. Conversation we might come up a bit later on when we talk about our inside bit, but I think it's the same with gardens. You only really learn by doing, and you're right, it's really hard to convince people sometimes of how important they are and how much good they can do. And also the other thing about gardens is that it's this whole thing about habit stacking. Everyone talks about habit stacking, but you can do that with gardens. So like they can be really great for the planet and for your mental health and feed you and do so many other things all on one plot of land. You can do all of those things in the same place, but it's only, I think, when people experience them do they really understand. And it's very frustrating and it's very frustrating if you're kind of working on a more bigger kind of public realm policy level, because bang for buck, they represent such good value for money. And trying to get them over the line just shouldn't be this hard, but they are. It is often the case. But I often find with private gardens and like residential projects, because alongside writing, I have a design studio, and clients often, well, more and more they do, but they don't always say, oh, we want a wildlife-filled garden. But we give it to them anyway. That's just what comes with, when we work on a project. It's always something that we will have quite front and centre, but it's always the thing that people respond to most. So then when the garden's delivered and it's in its first year and it's absolutely humming with life, the thing the clients will always mention is, oh my God, it feels so alive. It's so amazing. Before it was so quiet, and now we've got butterflies and bees and birds. And, that's the thing that, they experience it and they feel it. And once they've experienced it and felt it, they won't go back. That's there now. But yeah, you have to show, not tell.
Yeah. So in your book, you break it down into 5 sections: repair, empower, nourish, heal, reimagine. In your current garden state, which one are you feeling most right now for yourself?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I think probably we're coming out of a very long, wet winter in the UK. And so I've had a weekend in the garden this weekend, and it was just so nice on a sort of heal level, sort of restorative, being outside, being in nature again, having hands in the soil. I've really missed it. Hearing the birds come back. Yeah, I'm really enjoying seeing the seasons change and just being able to be outside. I find winter hard for that reason. I can deal with the cold, but when it's wet, I really miss being outside.
I know, isn't it? We've had very unusual weather where I live, because I live in a climate that's warm most of the time, but we've had 3 frosts, which has been, I've covered so many times, which I usually don't have to do, but because it's been really wet and soggy and cold, I almost forgot how much I liked gardening because I just didn't have access to it. And then the moment I could step outside again and do it, it was like whoosh, I just felt that feeling again. And I think when we're talking about people not experiencing it, like I feel in those dormant times, I remember that feeling of never experiencing it. So I guess, through all of these explorations of these gardens, if someone's listening, because most of my listeners are not gardeners, they're garden curious, what could be something that they could do to actually get out there and experience it, even if maybe they're a little too intimidated or they don't have the space to do it?
One thing that I think everyone who's a bit nervous or inexperienced or intimidated should consider is join a gardening club of some description. It could be one in your local town. It could be a charity that needs kind of volunteers, and you often need to have little or no skills or experience, because gardening clubs, I think, are some of the most amazing kind of communities in the world, and they happen all over the world, but they're full of really lovely, great people, because as we know, gardeners are very good people. But it's a really lovely way to learn, to it's a bit like kind of having a gym buddy. It makes you turn up because you're going with somebody, and it's so lovely doing it in a community, because it's one of those lovely activities where your hands are kind of busy, occupied with whatever they're doing, potting up seedlings and pricking out or deadheading, and you can just chatter away with people that you might not normally have an opportunity to socialise with, and you learn so much. And it just, I defy anyone to walk away from an hour or two at a community garden and not feel incredibly wholesome and like the world is full of lovely, great people. And it also just takes all the pressure off, because you're sharing it in a community, so you don't have to worry about, oh god, I'm not going to be able to water it because I'm going out tonight, or whatever it is, and you get to share in the bounty. So I think that's a really good starting point for anybody, and people are always appreciative of the help.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is since I launched my business, I've spoken at a decent amount of garden clubs, and I think what I found so surprising is how many people at the gardening club don't garden. Like, they're just there to help, to listen, to be with other people. And I just always pictured garden clubs in my mind as being these fancy women that knew everything about roses and horticulture. But so many of them were just there for the social part, or just there to learn. And it was really surprising to me, and also really exciting, to your point, that join a garden club, even if you've never touched a pair of snips in your life. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it's just learning, and there's so much learning with gardening. And that's the other thing, everybody feels like they've got learning to do. Even the most experienced people, designers, gardeners on the planet, have still got loads of learning to do. I think quite early on in my career, I went to Chelsea as a guest, RHS Chelsea. And I got invited onto one of the gold-winning gardens by the designers, which was really lovely. And I was with a very experienced, famous garden designer. When I was with him, he was standing near me. And he was asking them so many questions about the plants on their garden. He was like, oh, what's that? Is that a this? Is that that? And they were going, no, that's actually this. And anyway, the point is, he didn't know lots of the plants. He was asking lots of questions about it. And I remember thinking, I'd only just graduated, and I was thinking, that's so amazing. This guy, top of his game for 20 years, and he's still learning so much. And anyway, that's really stuck with me in my head, that, it's impossible to learn and know it all, and that's kind of the joy of it. And so, don't be intimidated by that.
It's exciting, and then also for a type A brain that wants to know everything immediately, having to just accept that you won't.
Yeah, but I think that's very good. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to feel kind of in awe and overwhelmed by the scale and size of it, because it is huge. But that's good, I think, to feel like that. Also, there's just, aside from the actual names of the plants, there's also what they all look like at different times of the year, which is another great thing about kind of, if you just dip into a gardening club, you'll get to know what's going on at one time of year, but go back 6 months later and the plants will all look completely different, even though they're the same plants. So seeing plants through their full cycle, so that when it comes to, say, designing a scheme, that grass comes into flower later, and that that will stand up through the winter and that one won't, or whatever it is. But there's so much detail to absorb.
Okay, before we move inside, I have to ask you, if someone is listening and they think, and everybody lives in different climates and different zones, but if someone's like, okay, spring is about to happen, it's about to be summer, I want to grow 2 things to start, what would you suggest for them to grow? Let's go with an annual, just because it's easy for maybe someone.
Goodness. Okay, so is this a complete beginner?
Yes.
Yeah. So a great annual I'm going to do two. One is Cosmos, which is a lovely cut flower as well. And it's cut and come again. So the more you pick it, the more it grows. It comes in so many different colours. I actually really love it's called Purity, which is white with a yellow eye. But they have all these beautiful like crinkly ones and pink ones and frilly ones. And anyway, you can plant them from seed now. And by May, June, you will be picking flowers for your vase. And that's just a really generous plant. Another one that I love is nasturtiums, which are a sort of low growing kind of, well, you can actually make them climb as well. So you can put them up an obelisk and they're bright orange and you can eat them. But they've got really beautiful foliage as well that look like mini kind of lily pads. And they come in loads of oranges and peaches and yellows. And they're a little bit kitsch. They definitely went through a phase where people probably thought they were not that cool, but I love them. And you can, and I say I'm going to do it every year, and I've never done it, but you can, with the seed heads, make nasturtium capers. But you can definitely eat the flowers. So that would be my annuals. And perennials, I would say a grass of some description, because grasses just work extremely hard in a garden. You've got the lovely fresh growth in the summer. in the spring. I'm talking ornamental grasses here. And then obviously the lovely seed heads that, depending on what variety or what species you're growing, they kind of jostle or twinkle or sparkle. And then in the summer, late summer and autumn, winter, you've got beautiful seed heads. So yeah, I would choose a grass that suits your climate. Big giant one like a Stipa gigantea for some serious wow factor, or a little shimmery one like Deschampia. Cespitosa goldtau, sorry, bit of a mouthful, but that's a lovely one, and it can also tolerate part shade.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Yeah, we have just like vast swaths of the pink mullygrass here, which is just the most stunning thing ever. And I'm growing a lot of bunny tails this year, which I don't know the Latin name of that. Botanical name of that.
Pennisetum alpeciroides.
Thank you.
We've done. The only reason it's on the tip of my tongue is we've literally just ordered a load for a scheme here.
Oh my gosh! It's like literally the grass, the foliage on it literally feels like a bunny, and then you get those bunny tails at the end of the season, and then you can cut them and dry. It's just one of my most favorite plants ever right now.
Yeah, it's great. Great choice.
Well, thank you so much. And I, in the show notes, am going to include links to a bunch of cosmos seeds, a bunch to bunny tails, and some grasses that people can look at, because I also think cosmos are just the greatest thing ever for a new gardener. And then also I grow like 6 varieties every single year. They're the best.
Yeah, they are great. They're great for filling in gaps as well.
Yes. Okay. We're going to move inside. And your pick for your inside pick, I gasped when I saw it, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the categories are pop culture internet moment you must discuss, food, beauty, fashion trend that you love or want to go away, or wild card. What are you choosing?
I chose a food, and it's not really a trend, I don't think. I mean, it might be, but it is something. It's an everlasting trend in my life, which is noodles. Okay, I'm just going to tell you really quick why this was so weird that you wrote this, is because a day before you sent this to me, you just said, I'm choosing noodles. I got an email from my son, who's 11's vice principal, and the title of the email was just noodles. And I was like, what on earth could this be? So I opened it up, and my son, who's half Asian, we go to the Asian market a lot. So he's been selling ramen noodles at school, making a decent amount. He's like a little entrepreneur. But the vice principal did not really want him to do this anymore. So the title of the email was just noodles. And then when you emailed me noodles, I was like, what is happening with noodles? So anyway, tell us why you love. Does he ship internationally? Maybe I could be his new customer. That's so great.
Yeah, he's an entrepreneur. But so tell me why you chose noodles as yours.
They're just a very loyal friend to me, Noodles.
Hmm.
I lived in Vietnam for about 6 years and did a lot of traveling in Asia. So they kind of slowly but surely became a kind of, well, in Vietnam it was sometimes twice daily, but at least a daily food staple that in a way that they hadn't been before. And then since moving back, which has been a long time, they've just never really left. And I cook them the whole time. The kids love them. They're quick. They're delicious. They seem to just always deliver in terms of variety. There's endless permutations. And also, where I live in the countryside now, in the southwest UK in Somerset, where I have to say the Asian cuisine on offer is pretty poor to non-existent. So I have had to basically turn our house into a grade A noodle shop in order to get my fix. And so I have. And I just love going to an Asian supermarket and stocking up on all the extra bits and bobs, all the like funky smelling pickles and fermented prawns and chili oils, and just having a larder full of all the good stuff. Yeah, they just always deliver.
Tomorrow, we learned that the AI chatbots are going to take over the world. You've got one last noodle dish to eat. What is it?
Oh God. I mean, I'd probably, like your son, it would probably be a ramen, because a true ramen is actually a very hard thing to cook at home. I can't, I haven't ever, and I wouldn't even dare really attempt a proper tonkotsu at home. I actually have just ordered I order it from various different like specialty suppliers, and they deliver.
So you're like ordering from you're really into noodles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm really into noodles. So it would probably be that. But also there's something quite sort of ceremonial the other day, and like solitary about noodles that I really like. The other day I was in Manchester for this amazing conference that actually you and your listeners might really like. It was called the Wilding Conference, and it was organised by Isabella Tree, and it was all about brilliance of gardens. But anyway, I was there for work, and we'd had like a really intense day of workshops and whatever, and I went out in search for like a quick and easy supper, and I came across this amazing ramen shop, and I sat at the bar with my book and my bowl of noodles, and it's literally just the most like heavenly thing, being by yourself with a bowl of noodles and a book. You don't want to talk to anyone. They're quite messy. There's quite a lot of slurping. Yeah. I just wanted to commune quietly with my delicious broth and hand-pulled noodles.
And it's so true, because I think when someone says like, let's order a pizza, it's just like, okay, bite, it's done. There's something about a bowl of noodles, especially like a ramen, that it almost feels like this sense of discovery in a way. Like, there's this bit here, there's this bit here. It just feels really special.
All the different bits that you can put in. And then I mean, just like all the different types of noodles, like rice noodles or chewy udon or soba. Like actually I really love like cold soba noodles. After that, we have a dish that I cook. They're called Glastonbury noodles now in our house, because we always have them when we get back from Glastonbury Festival, when we're feeling really broken. But you really want like a sort of quite stodgy umami fix. And they've got peanut butter and miso and soy and garlic, and then you have it with a smacked cucumber salad, and they're cold. And oh my gosh, they're so good. Oh my God,
that's one of my most favorite thing, is a smashed cucumber with a peanut sauce with a noodle. It's just perfection, and a good chili crisp.
Also, noodles are a gateway to dumplings, which are also very high up on the list. It's just like good things come with noodles.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My son he's half Mongolian. And so Mongolians make this dumpling called booze, and it's what they make for Lunar New Year. So every year for the past 5 years, we've had a booze party, and everyone comes, and we have on our big island, we just have a ton of filling, and everyone gets to make their own booze, and then we steam it on the spot. And it's just like this really cool, like, communal dumpling making together. And so we're a big dumpling family too.
So they sound great. I've never heard of a booze. So are they like are they a bit like a bao bun, or are they more like a wonton?
The dough for the actual dumpling itself is like a regular wheat flour. We get this Korean flour mixed with a little bit of a rice flour. So in water and salt. So it's a really simple. So it's a little bit more. We
Like
try
a
to make it.
gyoza?
Yes. Yes. It's more of like that kind of. It's not like a rice paper type of dumpling.
Okay.
And then for the filling, we're vegan, so we fake it, which no one knows, which I feel so excited that no one can tell. But the traditional filling is usually like a mutton or some type of meat like that, and then coriander and then onions. So it's incredibly simple, but it is so freaking delicious. So,
But what do you fake it with?
So in the US, we have something called Beyond sausage. And I mean, I would have to say we have a lot of good. Impossible and Beyond are probably the two best that taste like real sausage, but none of our friends are vegetarian or vegan. So it's kind of fun to see the people that have no idea and they want 20 of them. And then when I tell them it's vegetarian, they're like, wait, what? Oh God, what? So I just always don't tell people. And then they're cool with it. Yeah.
Stealth vegan.
Yes. Well, that's the way to do it. I mean, I think it's like secret gardening, right? It's like you give someone a bouquet and then they might want to try it for themselves too. So it's the showing kind of thing.
Showing, not telling.
Let's just end this with, obviously, I want everyone to buy your book, Gardens That Can Save the World. It's, even if you don't even think that you're into gardening, just the vast hope that this book gives, just seeing how communities are coming together to truly try to change something. Let's just leave with you just giving us a couple sentences on just giving it a shot.
Gardens offer solutions to so many of the problems and challenges that we're all wrestling with. We often feel completely overwhelmed, paralyzed by bad news. We feel divorced from nature. We feel overworked, exhausted, sometimes disconnected to what we're eating, unconnected from where we came from. Like we evolved in nature. We were designed to be in nature, and gardens offer us a route back to that in a very accessible way.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. If people want to find you, where should they go?
They should go to my Instagram, which is Lottie_Delamain, or my website, lottie.delamain.com.
Cool. And I'll include both of those in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jess. Lovely to chat to you. And good luck to your son and his noodle empire.
Thank you. That's today's show. If you like this episode or any of the Inside and Outside episodes, please leave a review. You might not think it helps, but it really does. It helps you get into the little algorithm better and also lets advertisers know that you enjoy this show. All right. On Apple, here's how you do it. Go to the homepage, scroll all the way down to the end of the episodes, and you'll see something that says rating and reviews. Hit that 5 stars, write something. Just say love it if you want to. On Spotify, go to the homepage of the show. You'll see a little tiny gear icon. It'll have a drop down that says rate this show, leave 5 stars. There you can't even write anything. And that's it. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening to the show, and I'll talk to you next week.